Florence.
And I'm Meg Hofdahl.
And this week we're talking about Friday the 13th.
Can you do the That's pretty good.
Actually, I was just hacking something.
Yeah. That was just a cat hairball.
It's the breathing music though, right?
Right, yeah. It's like an obscene phone call.
Yes, that's what it is. Do you get those anymore, people? I don't know. I think we just get like obscene texts or messages.
People do, yes.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. It is August, and I'm going back to work next week.
How do you feel?
I feel great.
Okay.
I'm
Good.
happy to go back to work.
Yeah.
And you said you wanted to talk to me about something. What is it?
Oh, yes. Okay. What I want to talk to you about is I wanted to update you on the horror movie watching at the writing retreat.
Oh, tell me.
So you suggested that we watch Hush.
Yeah.
And for listeners, if you don't know, that movie is about a writer out in the woods in a cabin, and she happens to be deaf. And of course, bad things happen. So that's what we watched.
Oh, good.
It was one of the most annoying experiences of my life. I told them, I'm never watching a horror movie with you guys ever again.
How did they watch?
So I don't know. I'd love to hear.
They're not horror
from
fans.
They are not horror fans, and I would love to hear from people like what their experience is watching horror movies with people who don't like horror movies. I don't really do that very often, so it was such a new experience. It was so strange.
Well,
I told them it was like a sociological experiment.
Oh,
go ahead.
Well, you have to tell me exactly what happened, but I was thinking, I'm not going to name any names, but I was watching a horror movie with someone who doesn't like horror movies, and she kept jumping and screaming. We were in the movie theater, and grabbing me, like grabbing my arm and covering her face and trying to lean into me, and I couldn't even enjoy it because... Yeah. It was like, okay, yeah, that's great that you feel that way, and that's funny. But
it's funny. No, it's funny. But that would have actually been okay.
Why? What happened
Okay,
then?
So here's what happened. They're like, Meg, and by the way, love you ladies, if you're listening. But they're like, Meg, pick out a horror movie. And I'm like, okay, well, Kelly suggested this one. I think this is a good one. So...
And just to clarify, it is a good movie.
I think it's a good movie. So, okay. At first, obviously, they're scared. They already are scared before the thing even starts, right? So, I enjoy that. I think it's funny to watch people, be, scared, and they're all, huddled up in the dark, But here's what happened. And I know why they were doing this. At least I think I do. What they started to do as we watched the movie is discuss how stupid the woman was the entire movie.
No, I don't like that.
And I was just sitting there are you serious? This woman had really clever ideas on how to fix her situation of somebody trying to kill her.
Yeah.
And so here's what I think happened. I think people who watch horror movies who don't like horror movies and don't like to be scared try to distance themselves from the character as much as they can, so there's no empathy there.
Yeah.
Because they were constantly why is she picking up her knife? She left her knife. Why is she jumping over there? Go over there. No, that's so stupid. Don't do that. And I was just like, oh my god, this is a nightmare. So after the next morning, we were all talking, and I'm like, yeah, and I had said to one of them, yeah, I'm not watching horror movies with you guys anymore, and they were all, and so she was relating this back to the other ones, and they're like, why? And I said, you guys are fucking annoying. And they said, why? How do you watch horror movies? And I said, quietly.
Yeah.
But I think it was just, I was just like, we all, when we're watching a woman or a man in a horror movie, running up the stairs when they should be running down the stairs, this happens, but I think what scares us is how badly we would react to the situation. And right. I told them, I was like, you guys, if we were in a cabin right now, as we are, and somebody came to murder us, I'm like, we would all be vomiting and crying.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to watch because I think that was their way of, like, sort of... And one of them's like, yeah, I admit, that's my coping mechanism. Just saying that this woman is stupid. Like, it makes me less scared. But it was like, oh my gosh, I'm never doing that again.
Well, and I think, I mean, it's definitely horror movies, but I think some people are like that with all movies, and they're trying to make it, like, logical. It's like, okay, but if they did that, then there wouldn't be a plot, or there wouldn't be a movie. So just go with it.
I know one of them's like, oh, but if there was a gun, like, this movie would be over. She would have already shot him. It's like, yep.
But there isn't, so that's why there's a movie.
That's why it's a movie. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm somebody, I like to thankfully, my husband and I watch movies the same way, and you and I watch movies the same way. Like, I like to... I mean, there are some really bad movies that, like, Invasion of the Blood Farmers, that are fun to make fun of as you go through, but I don't know. I was just like, wow, that was a turnoff.
Yeah.
Aww, so I will not be watching horror movies.
With randoms.
With randoms.
No offense, ladies.
No offense, love you!
Well... This week, we're talking about one of the all-time classics, Friday the 13th. When did you first see this movie?
Okay, so here's my Friday the 13th story. We were on a road trip. I was a small child, probably, I want to say 10 maybe. And it was Friday the 13th. And I don't know if it was June or July or what, but we were driving sort of in the middle of nowhere. And a storm had come in. And all these strange things started happening. We drove into the city we were going to stay in, and the radio started doing that weird thing where it, like, changes stations. Like, it was, like, from a movie. Yeah. And then we found our hotel. We got in our hotel, and the storm keeps happening. And we look out, and I don't know if anybody's seen this, but I think we were in Montana, and sometimes they have a statue of Jesus on top of a mountain. And there's a storm happening, and there's just this light on Jesus.
Oh my God.
And it was kind of creepy. Just the statue was creepy. And, okay, so I'm like, oh my gosh, this is scary. So then we turn the TV on, and it's Friday the 13th. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yay, I'm so excited. So I turn on I'm watching the movie, and the electricity goes out in the hotel.
What?
And I'm like, no, wait, I've always wanted to see Friday the 13th. Like, this is terrible. And I remember what scene it was when it cut out and everything. And we literally had to, like, go out in the hall and see what was happening. And it was dark and scary. And I was like, oh my gosh, Friday the 13th really is cursed. Like, it's really scary. And then, of course, the most upsetting thing was I wasn't able to actually finish the movie until I think I came home and then rented it or something. Because I was like, oh, I didn't get to see it all because the electricity went out. But anyway, that's my Friday the 13th spooky
That's awesome.
Story. And then my son was born on Friday the 13th too, so, and he just found out the other day that it is, like, a thing, like Friday the 13th, you know, and I've been trying to explain to him it's okay. Yeah. It's not really cursed.
Right. Because Jason's birthday
I know. I didn't know that until we watched this, because I was like, why is this even called Friday the 13th? Did you know?
No, I hadn't remembered.
Yeah.
So, this is one of those movies where I don't have a story for it. It's just always... I'm like, of course I've seen that movie, and I saw it at some point.
Yeah.
But I have not rewatched it since I was a child, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And, which is crazy, because it's like, I don't know, it's just one of those things, like, yeah, I've seen Friday the 13th. I haven't seen this one, so I never went back and rewatched it. That's why I love this podcast.
Yes.
Can you give us a little background about the movie?
Sure. Okay. Well, actually, the most interesting thing that I found, well, first I'll say it came out in 1980, and it was really because of the success of Halloween that they were like, okay, we need to make more movies like this. It is starring several people, it's starring Kevin Bacon. The return of Kevin Bacon!
I didn't know he was in this movie. I didn't remember.
Oh yes, the return of Kevin Bacon!
You were happy.
All I'm saying is, if I was at Camp Crystal Lake and
Kevin Bacon was in a Speedo?
Kevin Bacon was in that Speedo. Did you see the bulge?
Yeah, I saw.
And I didn't like the gold chain, though. But if he was in his Speedo and we were there together, I'm just saying things could have happened.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying he looked cute.
Yeah.
I'm a Tremors Kevin Bacon girl, but he was cute in this, too. Okay. Oh, did you know that I think, and I was trying to figure out, do you remember Bill? Anybody? Okay, with the name Bill.
You mean
Bill,
a character?
Yeah.
Or in life.
Do you know that guy Bill? Let's talk about him right now. No, a character named Bill is played by Harry Crosby, who's Bing Crosby's son.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's the comedian who is doing the Native American appropriation.
That's Ned.
Oh, that's
because
Ned.
My son watched this movie with me, and he called him racist Ned.
Okay, then I don't know who Bill is.
Okay.
Maybe it's the guy with the mustache.
No. Yeah, maybe.
You know?
I don't know.
Okay. Somebody tell us who Bill is, because it's Bing Crosby's son, so that's fascinating. Okay, but this is what I thought was interesting. Apparently, Gene Siskel, remember him, hated this movie so much. He, had this burning hatred for this movie. So let me read this. It says, its most vocal detractor was Gene Siskel, who in his review called Cunningham, who is the writer-director, one of the most despicable creatures ever to infest the movie business. He also published the address for Charles Bluedorn, the chairman of the board of Gulf and Western. Gene Siskel published his address.
Not okay.
No. Which owned Paramount, as well as Betsy Palmer's home city, and encouraged fellow detractors to write to them and express their contempt for the film.
That is not okay.
That is so mean. That's bullying.
And it's not, and this is, what does he want from this movie?
I actually thought this movie was really a lot better than I thought it was going to be.
Exactly. So, it's so much better than I remembered.
Me too. So I'm just sitting here thinking, really? What was so offensive about this movie?
Maybe he had some bad camp memories of his own.
Yeah, maybe he did.
Maybe he was bullied like Jason.
Oh, maybe he couldn't swim, you guys. But that's no excuse to be a bully.
No.
So that's not cool.
Also, did you know why Jason looked the way he did? Did you notice Jason looked strange?
Well, no, I definitely noticed he looked strange.
I was reading the wiki on the fandom wiki.
Okay.
He has hydrocephalus.
Oh.
So severe facial deformities and an abnormally large head, and he also had a mental disability.
Oh.
He was an only child.
Oh.
Pam, his mother, did not let him attend school. She homeschooled him, and she finally got this job at the camp, and she had to bring him.
Oh my god!
So doesn't that make the backstory tragic?
Yeah, I really...
Is there a prequel? There should be.
Oh my god, there should be a prequel.
Somebody
that takes place in the 50s.
Yes. And Jason's childhood.
I just watched a trailer for Leatherface, which is the origin story. So we need a Jason origin story.
I agree.
Do we have that? I don't think so.
You know, if there is, I apologize, but
yeah,
I would love to see it. Okay, so let's start talking about this movie.
Okay.
The point of view shot throughout the movie for the killer, because we don't know who the killer is. Spoiler alert, it's the mother. Is so effective because you realize that all of these people trust this person, and they're not scared of them until she brandishes a weapon or something. It's so effective. Even
in the very beginning, when it's the 1950s, when she does her first killing, those kids are starting to make out, right? And then when they see her, they're just trying to explain what's going on. Oh, they're not oh my god, there's some stranger in here with a machete.
They knew the person and they trusted them.
Yeah, so I thought that was really effective, actually.
I agree. And then the first death is so great because they're wearing their yellow counselor uniforms and the bright red blood and everything. It's so good.
It was good, and I like I always like the stalker cam or the monster POV cam or whatever you want to call it. I think it provides an extra layer of creepiness to see through their eyes.
Yeah, and we don't even know who it is, until the end of the movie, of course.
I'm thinking of in Halloween, it starts out like that, right? Where it's Michael Myers as a child when he kills his sister, and so I wonder if there was an influence there since they were kind of trying to recreate that lightning in a bottle.
Tom Savini did the makeup for this movie as well. We had Tom Savini for a couple weeks ago for another movie. And then, of course, the music is so effective. That those breathing sounds are really disturbing. And it's is that music? Is that somebody breathing? What's happening?
I was really impressed with the score, all the music. And I could see, and I think not just in plot, but also in music, I saw, or noticed Psycho.
Oh,
I felt a Psycho feeling. I felt like it had Psycho-type music. Yeah, Psycho influence. And also... and I'm jumping way ahead, but at the end when the mother is talking to herself in the two, that made me think of Psycho.
So good. Yes, I agree. I thought of that too. Something about this, it's sort of a classic score, and compared to some other horror movies that we've seen and will talk about, the music doesn't feel dated. It just feels classic and right. And it was not distracting. Sometimes, when they're using keyboard or electric guitar or saxophone or something.
It's very dated.
Yeah, it's like,
feels strange. But yeah, you're right. It fits the scene. And the scene is so iconic. I feel like if somebody came up to me and was like, hey, I want to get into classic 80s horror.
Yeah.
I feel like the camp setting, everything about this is just iconic in what we think of.
The guy chopping wood, I guess this is the guy who, we don't know if his name is Bill or not, but he's just wearing cut-off jean shorts, and he reminds me of Tobias C&K, the Never Knew.
Oh, he did look like Tobias. Oh, and he had like a little kerchief.
Yes.
Yeah,
He's
there's so many
fashion
violations going on.
And then all these guys are shirtless in the beginning for some reason, and I'm like, put on your shirts, dudes. And he touches Alice's face, and I wasn't really sure if they were a couple or not, and I felt a little weirded out by that.
Well, so we see the girl who's hitchhiking. First of all, just as we said about Indian burial grounds and don't mess with Indian burial grounds, guys, don't hitchhike.
Yeah.
I mean, does anybody do that anymore? Please don't.
I don't think so, but I think some people might. The first ride is fine. The guy is warning her, and something distracting about that ride, they didn't mount a camera on the dash. It was just cut between back and forth, and it was kind of distracting.
I noticed that, yeah.
But yeah, would you ever hitchhike? I never have.
I would have to be so, okay, actually, I'll tell you one story. I was so stupid. I look back on it now, and I'm like, I should have been murdered. I took a bus to school. This is in college. The school bus? Oh, no, this is in college. I was like 21, and I went over to catch the bus, and I missed it. And so I was standing there like, well, what am I going to do now? And this guy came driving up, and he was in a taxi, but he's like, I'll give you a ride. And I was like, my woman sense was going off, and I'm like, and he's like, you don't have to pay, it's fine, I'll just drive you to the college. And I was like, okay. And it was I white knuckled the entire 5 minutes. It was just like a 5-minute or 10-minute drive, but the whole time I'm like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever done. Like, just getting in a car with a man. Yeah. But I consider myself like a pretty savvy person, but I still did it anyway. And then like I could not get out of that car fast enough, even though he was fine. He did not try to murder me. The story would have been so much more interesting if he had a knife or something. This is
like a cool story, bro moment.
Yeah. But anyway, don't hitchhike, whether you're a man or a woman. Like, no.
So Annie, who's hitchhiking, she's about to be the cook, and we know then that the mother picks her up, and she used to be the cook. She slashes her throat, and that scene is so great.
It was good because I didn't remember that happened, and I thought she was going to be like one of the main characters.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, again, like that Psycho thing where you're like, oh, she just died. Oh, I thought she was going to be like one of our main people. So that was really cool.
It was good. My next note is Kevin Bacon in a Speedo at this point. And then Ned fakes that he drowns to get mouth to mouth. And then he's being racist. So I wrote racist Ned.
What do you think about this? And this is in a lot of horror movies where men are acting sort of childlike.
Yeah.
Where they're like they're like pranking the girls and like, what is that? Why are they depicting men in that way?
I don't know. And I have to, this is going ahead, and I know you haven't watched these recently, but all of these movies were on demand on Starz for a while, and so after my son and I finished Friday the 13th, we started watching 2, 3, 4, and we're going to continue, but every single one of them has that Ned sort of character. Yeah. Somebody who is up to no good, who's doing bad things, and every movie Campbell has said, oh, there's the Ned character, like the guy who is really obnoxious and teasing the girls again.
Yeah.
Why?
And they always die.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, I just wonder, and it's not even just, I mean, there's definitely the comedian character, the Ned character, but also I feel like other men, too. Like, they just act, I don't know.
Like
and it's
children?
like, yeah, and it's like, a man made this movie, so am I just reading into something? Is there no reason? Is it just to be funny? Or is there, like, some sort of underlying reason or subtext?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either.
Ned, we talk about that he dies, of course, and it's also really effective when he's dead on that top bunk.
I didn't remember that either, and, like, they're doing it, and then it's like, oh, no.
And something that Campbell picked up on, and I didn't even pick up on it, the girl who's about to make out with Kevin Bacon, or I guess they were doing more than making out. I'm so innocent.
Yeah, Kelly, they were necking.
She has this little monologue about how she has this reoccurring dream about a thunderstorm, and then it turns into blood. And Campbell's like, oh, I bet that's going to happen to them, like, in the next scene. Ooh. So, like, it was foreshadowing. And I'm like, oh, yeah, because Ned's blood is dripping down on them during the thunderstorm.
I feel like Campbell needs to join this podcast. Everything you said is, like, him being, like, so on point, right? And, like, knowing everything. And, like, next week it's going to be Kelly and Campbell. And it'll be like, I never existed.
Then it'll just be Campbell.
Yeah.
Get ready.
I mean, he's really on point.
He was. And I thought, so then Kevin Bacon's death was really shocking because you don't expect it. He gets stabbed from underneath,
that was a good one. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, it's so good. And the makeup effects, Tom Savini, I mean, obviously, he's amazing, but it's just, everything is so well done.
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought everything looked real. I mean, for 1980, I thought everything looked actually really good. Now, here's a question. Why do you think the mom uses different weapons every time? Because it was, I think, a different weapon every single time.
I think she's just using what's around her. I think that she's just being...
She's improvising.
Yeah.
She's coming from a place of rage and perhaps not cunning and planning.
Right.
Okay.
I think so.
And it's just cool. I mean, I like the axe, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm a big axe fan. And what else was there?
The arrow,
The arrows. What else?
Knife or sword or machete.
Yeah, what was that thing that came up out of the thing to stab Kevin Bacon? It looked weird. Like, it looked like a fire poker or something? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, they were killing that snake earlier with something, so maybe
and I wrote on my notes, like, why do I feel like that's probably a real snake?
I know, right?
Like, now we know it would not be, but I'm pretty sure that was a real snake.
Old movies when, like, horses fall down, it's like, oh, that's not a trained horse.
No.
Okay, so I wrote, everything is really creepy and subtle. The curtain moving when the girl's brushing her teeth.
Did you see the hand?
Yes.
I loved the hand.
It's so subtle, and it's the less is more thing. We're not seeing this grotesque creature lurking. We don't know what it is.
I really like that about this movie, and I think unfortunately why it's in my mind why it didn't hold much esteem is because I think the sequels have tarnished it.
I agree, and I love Jason. I mean, he's cool and everything, but I did not in my memory remember how good this movie was either, because I was like, oh, it's just another Jason movie, whatever, you know.
Yeah, me too. No, I was just like, well, this will be like typical whatever, and I actually was like, wow, this is effective. There's moments in here that are really good. I was impressed.
The combination of the point of view shots and the music, it's so well done. Oh, when the girl's in the cabin, I don't know all those girls' names. There's so many women, though. There
are a lot of women.
When one of the girls is in the cabin and somebody's yelling, "Help me outside," I would literally not do anything if that was me.
Okay, now I know.
Yeah. If someone was like, "Help me,"
but what if it was me?
Well, if I knew who it was.
But what if you thought maybe it was me?
Okay, I'd come save you, Meg.
You text me and say who dat.
Yeah, new phone, who dis.
Yeah.
Oh, and the bloody axe in the bed. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I love that part because most of us, maybe not Kelly, but most of us, if we heard a woman's voice, we'd be like, oh, it's okay, I have to go help them.
Right.
If it was a man's voice, I would be like, no. And, okay, here's another story. That's not really a story. One day, somebody I was not expecting knocked on my door. And my kids were very small at the time. And I looked, I was by myself, and it was like almost dark, and I peeked out, and it was a woman. So what did I do? I opened the door because it was a woman. And she began to scream at me about something my kids had never done, and she was clearly insane. She was talking about my kids on her fence. My kids were like babies. And I'm like, nope, that wasn't me. Well, she kept just threatening my life and my children. So I told her off, and I called the police. And when the police arrived, I said, this woman, she left by then. I'm like, this woman threatened me and was saying all this horrible stuff. And I said I was, telling her to get lost and everything. And he's like, why did you open the door? And I said, because she was a woman.
Yeah.
And he's like, and he rolled his eyes at me, this police officer. And he's like, you don't know how many times I hear that. He's like, that means nothing. Do not open the door. So there's another cautionary tale for you.
Oh my gosh.
But, but as a woman, I feel already like, oh, okay, it's a woman, it'll be fine.
Right.
And so that character was like, oh, it's a woman asking for help. Like, I have to go out there.
Well, and I'm going to jump ahead. When she shows up at the end, Alice runs to her and is hugging her. It's like, of course. No, she's a safe person.
Yeah.
And she's calm, and it's like, of course I'm going to trust her.
Oh, yeah. It's like, I mean, not only is she a woman, but she's an older woman. I mean, she's like, has like a grandmotherly vibe. So it's like, oh, yeah.
It's gonna be
this
fun.
isn't the person hurting me.
Okay, the bloody axe in the bed.
Yeah.
I bet you love that.
I did.
And then the phone line is cut. They have these nice subtle shots showing everything. Nothing is blatant. It's just like, oh, here it is, and in through the windows, these POV shots. You're not sure if it's actually the killer looking in or if we're just with the camera. And also, there's no way I would go check the generator or stay sleeping alone in a cabin.
I know. Point. Okay, you've seen a bloody axe on a pillow, and you're, like, trying to nestle down for the night. But did you hear her? She was like, at one point, she was like, I think we should just hike for it and, like, get out of here. And he's like, no, it's fine. He's just like, we'll just stay here. Well, that didn't work. Oh, I think what we were saying before was, like, several times, when I was bringing up the hitchhiker, I was going to say, like, this guy's like, yeah, I'll take you for a ride. Then he hits on her and says, are all the women as pretty up there?
Right.
And she just, ha, because that's what you do, especially in 1980, when somebody says something to you like that. And then, when Alice is working, she's fucking putting a gutter up with hammers and nails.
She's literally doing everything by herself.
And this guy's like, oh, you're pretty. It's like, get the hell out of
here,
right? Like, I ain't putting a gutter up. I don't need you.
Oh.
It was just ridiculous.
And all these dudes don't have their shirts on.
I know. Get out of here. Except Kevin Bacon.
Yeah. Double standard.
Yep.
Instead of cool story bro, we're going to say cool story Meg, and
cool story Meg.
And then something like, that's
misogynist,
except for
unless
Kevin
Bacon.
Or in my shirt will say, except for Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, fair enough. I know, fair enough.
This whole end segment, I'm just skipping to the end now, after the mother shows up, and it's so epic. It's these two women. You find out she's the killer, which is such a shock.
Like, no. It was a nice long climax.
Yeah.
With a lot of fighting. And
it was really good.
Okay, here's a question. Does Jason use a machete because a machete killed his mother?
Yes.
Did you notice she picked up the machete? And I was like, ooh.
I think so. And apparently, I was also reading the wiki on this, he never died, because they never found his body. And so he's just been living in the woods waiting for his mother to find him, apparently.
Because it does get supernatural.
Yeah. Eventually. But in the next movie, he's just been living in this shanty in the woods. Oh. And he witnessed his mother's death, so now he's getting revenge. Eventually, he starts body possession, and he becomes undead.
I remember that.
But for the first couple movies after this, he's really been alive this whole time.
Okay, so where does he get the hockey mask?
It's in the third movie. He gets it from a kid in town.
So in the second movie, is he going around with his ugly face?
No, well, for part of the time, and then he has like a hood on, like a hood over his face.
I mean, I've seen it, but it's been
I know.
decades.
Well, and I didn't remember either, and I was tweeting this out when I was rewatching it. I was like, when does the hockey mask come in? Because it didn't come in until partway through the third movie. Isn't that interesting?
Really? That is so fascinating how, we look, it's just like Jason and the hockey mask.
I know. We just take it for granted.
I feel like the hockey mask is creepy, but his just general face is creepy.
Yeah. And the hood thing was really creepy too.
Yeah.
You'll need to rewatch these.
I think I do remember that now. Yeah, I'm starting to get flashes of that movie.
And then Corey Feldman is the one who kills him eventually, and then it's him in the next movie years later, and he becomes Jason, I guess.
What?
Yeah.
Corey Feldman?
Well, it's an older actor playing.
Okay.
Corey Feldman's
but in the
character.
that does sound vaguely familiar too. It's
I know,
all coming back to me now. Yeah.
It's just at some point in life, like you stop rewatching certain movies because you feel like you've seen them.
You've seen them, and you have to catch up on new horror movies and other things.
It's amazing.
That's, like you said, that's why I love doing this, because, like, who knew that I'm such a Friday the 13th fan? But now I feel like I'm a really big Friday the 13th fan, and I would have never really thought that, or...
I wouldn't have either.
Yeah.
So, did it live up to your memories of it?
I think it was better.
I
think it was better than what I thought. Yeah.
Did any certain scenes stand out to you in this rewatch?
It's so subtle, but I love the hand on the curtain.
Yes.
It's just those little subtle things that just, I think, make this a good, effective horror movie.
Was there anything that you didn't remember?
Oh, yeah. I didn't remember that girl, the hitchhiking girl, dies right away. I didn't remember Mr. Ned, the comedian, his blood dripping.
Mm-hmm.
I did remember how Kevin Bacon died. Isn't that interesting how that stuck in my head? But, no, I'm trying to think of any other things. Well, there was a lot I didn't remember.
I think it passed the Bechdel test.
You know, I was like 90% and I'm like, oh shit, does this pass a Bechdel test?
Well, there's so many women.
There were so many women, but I felt like they were never talking to each other.
But also, like, the mother and Alice, they're talking about a man, but not in a romantic way.
Okay, that counts.
And is it still, or was it ever scary?
I think so. I think it's a great, classic, sort of perfect entry drug into slasher movie. I think.
I agree. I'm gonna rate it higher than I thought I would have.
Yeah, me too. All right.
Anything else you want to say about Friday the 13th?
Can we try to do the sound again? How many chiches is it?
I don't know.
All right.
Hi, horror friends. We're back. I still have a friend in town. Hi. Kelly came all the way to New York to hang out, so we're gonna make drinks for you.
And we watched Friday the 13th together.
It was really hard.
You did great.
Yeah. Only because she told me what was coming. Like 80% of the film, she'd be like, and someone's about to die now, and then I would be like, okay, I'm ready. Or I'm like, okay, I'm ready. It was super helpful. So friends that are afraid of horror, find this friend to talk you through these films because, I mean, it's so much more enjoyable.
Oh, good.
Yeah. This week, for your drinking pleasure while you enjoy Friday the 13th, I've made for you a little something called Sex on the Bunk.
Have you ever ordered a sex on the beach? That's a drink. Well, this is sex on the bunk because they have sex on a bunk in this movie, right? You see that. You saw that part. It's Kevin Bacon. You saw it.
We all saw Kevin Bacon. Thanks, Kevin Bacon. All right, so to start with this, we're going to go back to our moonshine that we used a few weeks back. So much of this film is just like shot in the moonlight, and so that felt really appropriate. And so our take on the sex on the beach, we used a few things and we're inspired by them. We're going to use a cranberry cherry juice blend, mostly because I feel like maybe a cherry or two was lost or would have been if they lived. I don't know. Some pineapple juice and a little bit of milk. Also, some fresh thyme, because it's only a matter of time before you are going to get murdered at Camp
Crystal Lake.
The things you find at Macy's. And a cherry for that cherry. Alright, let's get started into our handy dandy horror rewind.
Shaker.
Ooh. Check out our website. You too can be the proud owner of one of these under the links section. So let's get started. Going to start with 2 ounces in the fullest glass Kelly's ever seen.
Yeah.
Moonshine.
It's like bubbling over.
Oof. We left some on the table for later. 2 ounces of that cherry cranberry juice. Woo! Made it.
That was a good one.
Thanks. 1/2 ounce of the pineapple juice. Easy peasy. And finally, 1 ounce of milk. This just kind of makes it nice and creamy and good. So you're gonna need 1 good sprig of thyme and then a second sprig that you're gonna pull all the leaves off of. And we're gonna drop them in and mix those in with the drink, but we're gonna save this for garnish. Put enough ice in the tin that will fill your cup because we're just going to fill it and shake it. As we've talked about, when you're using like a cream or any kind of citrus, you always want to mix it. Also, be ready for some blood-curdling, exciting, sometimes you need to release the pressure on the top before you can make that open.
It's pretty.
Beautiful, purpley, pink, motherly looking drink. Let's go ahead and take this sprig of thyme and our single cherry. Take the thicker, woodier end, stab it, like so many are stabbed in this movie, and run it through, drop it down. Oh, I present you.
May I?
Yes, some sex on the bunk. Oh, look, I found one too.
It's magical, the magic of TV or whatever.
It's surprising. I'm learning to really enjoy moonshine. It's just not a flavor of liqueur I'm used to.
It's
Liquor.
good, though.
Yeah. So, cheers to you while you get scared, or not, watching Friday the 13th. Bye!
Okay, it's time for our Fast Forward segment. And since Meg picked the movie, I picked Fast Forward. And guess what I'm going to talk about, Meg?
I actually don't know. I have no clue.
It is a movie that is exclusive to Shudder right now, or you can get it on iTunes.
Okay.
Called Dearest Sister.
Ooh.
It's 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. It came out in 2016.
Okay.
And Fangoria ranked it as one of their top 10 favorite horror films of 2016.
Oh, I have never heard of it.
I hadn't
Dearest
either.
Sister. Is
Dearest
it American? Or?
No, it's from Laos.
Oh.
And did you know the country of Laos only has one horror director?
What?
They have only released 2 horror movies in their history.
And it's on the top
and they're
10.
Wow. Both of them are directed by the same woman. It's
Woo!
a woman. And her name is Maddie Doe. And
Whoa.
she is literally only to have this. This is the second horror film she ever made, and it's her. She's the only one, and she's the only female filmmaker also in the country. Like, how amazing!
Wow, that's
she's the only
so
filmmaker,
cool.
Female filmmaker in Laos, and she does horror.
Wow.
So,
okay, that is cool.
This movie.
Okay, tell me.
I'm gonna give a little bit of plot, but I'm not gonna give any spoilers because you all need to watch this. The main character goes to the city to live with a distant relative, a cousin who's young. Because she's losing her sight, and she's slowly going blind, and she just needs help getting around and just doing day-to-day things. And her husband is Estonian. He speaks, it sounds like Finnish, but I guess it's Estonian.
Okay.
And he's off on business a lot. So let me tell you, this cousin who's losing her sight, her vision, they do point-of-view shots of her vision. That's what my vision looks like without my glasses. And so it's really scary because people will get an idea of what it feels like to have vision loss.
You're like, watch this? This is what I see.
It's really creepy.
Oh,
and of course, and then they mention that they believe if you lose one sense, you gain another. And so she starts seeing visions and ghosts.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a nice, creepy ghost story, but it's more than that, and I'm not going to give anything away.
Why is it called Dearest Sister?
Well, it's so good. And let me tell you, it is slow burn.
Okay.
And it's subtle. It's not like you're not going to have things jumping out at you, and you're not going to.
But
hey, it might be good to watch with people, right? That it won't be like, why is she doing this? But there's some other subplots, and it's so well done. You have to watch it. I'm excited. It's really creepy.
That's really cool. I love all types of horror movies, and that sounds like it's just a nice like slow burn one. Yeah. And those you want to.
I would say I think they categorize it as horror. I think it's a kind of psychological thriller too, but it has that supernatural element. So check out Dearest Sister.
Dearest Sister.
Yeah, it's really good.
And did anything in it make you think of your sister?
No. But what it did remind me of was other Asian horror films and TV shows that I love.
Yes.
And I wanted to give a plug because Meg and I, this is my dark secret, and Meg shares it with me now, is that we love Korean drama.
Oh, yes, Korean drama.
You're like, what are you going to say?
I'm like, oh my God. Yes, we do, Korean dramas.
So there's this Korean drama called Master's Son.
OMG.
And it's got a horror element.
It has a horror element.
If you like horror, but you also love romance... It's so good. And that's on Hulu and Drama Fever and...
I keep trying to get people to watch it and nobody will watch it.
No,
I swear, it's a Korean show and it's amazing.
It's so good.
It's
funny,
good.
It's scary, it makes you cry, it makes you laugh, it makes you feel...
Please, if you try Master's Son, let us know what you think. I really think you're going to like it. If you like romance.
Yeah.
With your horror.
Yeah.
And I mean, when I say horror, it's horror light.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's not scary.
No.
But,
Oh my gosh.
So I had to recommend that also to our listeners.
Yeah, good thinking. Yeah. I'm glad it wasn't any of our other deep dark secrets.
We'll wait for that on our next round. So we need to rank Friday the 13th, and also I'm going to rank Dearest Sister, and then you can rank Master's Son.
Okay.
So what are we going to use as our rating? Machetes or it's not consistent enough yet for this movie. So what's Friday the 13th?
There's a lot of arrows.
How about Kevin Bacon's Speedo?
Okay, how many Kevin? Okay, I like it.
On a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being you hated it, 10 being it's a perfect movie, how many Kevin Bacon Speedos do you rank Friday the 13th?
You know what? I'm going to give it a 9 because you know what? Mommy killer. What's better than a mommy killer?
Oh my god, it's so good. I was also going to give it a 9.
Yeah.
It surpassed my expectations. It surpassed my memory.
Mm-hmm.
It is solid, excellent horror movie making.
I agree.
Dearest Sister on Kevin Bacon's Speedo. I'm sorry the only female filmmaker in Laos, if she's listening to this, she's like, Kevin Bacon's Speedo, they're ranking my movie on this? I'm giving it an 8. I think it's a solid movie. It's really good. And I'm sorry to disrespect your movie, but Kevin Bacon's Speedo. It's good.
How is that disrespectful?
I don't know.
I'll just give it a 7 because I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, but your anticipation.
That's my anticipation.
Now, Master's Son, and we're ranking it on Korean drama, 0 to 10, Kevin Bacon Speedo.
If we're ranking it by Korean drama, then it's a 10.
Yeah, it's a 10
my favorite
for me too.
one.
Yeah, mine too.
It's so good, you guys.
And I shout out to my friend Mai who introduced it to us, and it's so good.
Like what Korean dramas, they're TV shows, but they are only up to maybe 20 episodes.
Yeah, and then there's not a second season. Like they they tell a story, there's an arc, and then that's it. And I love it because it's not like, oh, we have to keep writing episodes for these characters. Right. No, they just tell the whole story.
Exactly, and I think we've all had that experience where we like ship somebody in a show, but then the show goes on for 10 seasons and it's kind of like, oh, okay. But in this case, you get to just ride that romance wave, and it's so good.
So everybody, it is the middle of August right now. In a couple of weeks, we're going to be in Minneapolis at the Minneapolis Convention Center for the Supernatural Convention. Stop by and see us. You don't even need a ticket to the Supernatural Convention to come see us on Thursday. And then if you are attending the convention, stop by to our booth on Saturday.
Also, a couple things I wanted to do shout-outs. I was recently interviewed by the Sixth Dimension podcast. You guys should check it out. It's an Australian, and we sort of compare and contrast Australian and American sort of experiences and growing up, what sort of horror movies we watched, and we talk about horror literature. Anyway, you can check out my interview on that podcast. Another thing I wanted to mention, and I've mentioned this before when it was on Patreon, but now it's available for everyone, is you can listen to my short story, The Pit, on the Wicked Library podcast. Also, I just wanted to do a shout out to all our great fans. We've had like nice messages.
Oh, yeah.
And just people are really sort of getting into what we're trying to do here, which is remember the horror movies of our childhood. And so Kelly and I are so appreciative with not only your nice messages, but also your patience with us as we learn how to be podcasters.
Yeah, so thank you. And we can't wait to continue this journey with you. So let us know what you want to hear, what you like, what you don't like, and subscribe and follow us on all our social medias. Meg, anything else you want to say? Do you want to do the breathing again?
I feel like I could do like obscene phone call breathing, like hey. But
oh, that was good.
Guys, I did it.
That was good.
That was all right.
Okay, we'll see you in the horror section.